Good morning to everyone. My topic for today is Adapting Through Change, the COVID-19 Lessons. I have no financial disclosure. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck our country in March 2020 and lockdown was imposed, there were no protocols for patient care during the COVID era. It was a challenge for the ophthalmologists as they worked in close proximity to the patients for examination and treatment, thus putting them at a higher risk for exposure. The risks specific to oculoplastic procedures are as follows. Aerosolizing procedures such as nasolacrimal syringing, dacryocysto-rhinostomy, orbital fracture repair, and orbital decompressions lead to sinuses and respiratory droplet formation, which can lead to further infection. Now, the viral transmission is also thought to occur through conjunctiva and tears. Procedures requiring general anesthesia and intubation place oculoplastic surgeons at a risk because of high aerosol generation. Therefore, I'll be talking about the clinic modifications and use of social media and telemedicine from March to May 2020 in our setup. The modifications of ophthalmic clinics are as follows. The first was behavioral control. Use of N95 masks, gloves, goggles, gowns, and face shields was done. Generous use of alcohol-based hand rub and hand washing was encouraged among the patients as well as the healthcare workers. Social distancing was maintained by asking the patients to sit on alternate seats in the waiting areas. Large protective plastic shields were installed on the slit lamp to prevent droplet infection. In addition to this, patients were asked to limit their speaking during the slit lamp examination. Under environmental control, disinfection of shields, tabletops, slit lamp, door handles, and chairs was done. The disinfectants used were diluted household bleach and alcohol solutions with at least 70% alcohol. In addition to this, maintenance of air ventilation in waiting areas was also ensured. The administrative measures taken were screening was done to identify patients with possible exposure to COVID-19. Procedures like nasolacrimal syringing and dacryocysto-rhinostomy were avoided, and all elective procedures with no life-threatening or sight-threatening concerns were postponed. Coming to the social media use, initially, triage of the patient was done via telephone, and non-urgent cases were asked to delay their visit. The patients were also given the option to send a preliminary photograph of their lesion and all other relevant documentation prior to the consultation via email. Virtual meetings continued through Google Meet, and interdepartmental consultations were done using online applications. Smartphones with high-resolution cameras made photo documentation of the patient as well as the lesion easier. Social media and widespread 4G data network made teleconsultation feasible. In the use of telemedicine, initially it was used for aesthetic consultations and follow-up appointments in post-op cases like entropion, ectropion, and eyelid tumors. Later on, it was also used for inpatient triaging and preliminary evaluation of skin lesions which were thought to be malignant, and also in triaging of the patient presenting with proptosis. Decision regarding whether the patient required an in-person visit to the clinic was taken via telemedicine. The younger generation, being familiar with new technology, was more comfortable with telemedicine. Also, the current work environment has advanced technology, video-equipped computers, and cell phone cameras, which makes telemedicine easier. Now, there are certain drawbacks to telemedicine. One of them is that it doesn't address complex diagnoses such as orbital tumors or orbital trauma. One of the important challenges that remain is that online payment methods are still not addressed. New legislature and state laws are needed to address the issues of liability and coverage. Hence, we can conclude that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the interface of doctor-patient interaction. And even though measures were taken to keep things as close to normal as possible while following the protocol, the new normal That is, modifications of ophthalmic clinics, telemedicine, and social media had to be adapted to for evaluation and treatment of patients with oculoplastic disorders in our setup. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stuti. That was a nice presentation. Obviously, you all had to go through all these challenges which you have nicely described and categorized into different behaviors here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So have you done any comparative study with other centers or something like that?
With other centers, no, ma'am.
Okay.
I have another question, Dr. Stuti.
Yes, sir.
This is all standard. Like, do you have anything other than the standard to offer in your study? Like any extra thing which generally people are not offering? Like,
No, sir. Actually, it was done during that period when there was the first wave of COVID-19, and we had just started with the COVID era. So the studies of that time,
okay.
during March to May 2020.
Have you developed any special consent for patients who are given telemedicine? Or
So for patients who join us through telemedicine, we give them the standard consent that few problems or diagnosis may be missed because we are not actually examining the patient in person. So palpation of masses or exact
so you
evaluation
need
is
to
not.
devise an special consent form, though it is believed now if a patient has approached a doctor on WhatsApp or any media which is recordable, then
Yes,
even consent is not mandatory. But
yes.
for the all obvious reasons, we need to have a special consent, and patient has to accept that before going ahead with telemedicine. Okay.
But what is new about it, Stuti? Everybody is doing something. Dr. Stuti,
Yes, sir.
can you have anything new? It means the whole country, everybody is doing same thing.
Yes, actually it's the standard protocol, but it was new, sir, at that time when we had done the study and I had submitted the abstract at that time during the March to May 2020.
Maybe you could
You
have
have told
compared with
something.
different specialities, you know, the whole protocol, maybe that would have been more significant rather than just, basically you have just what these are the standard operating protocols that you've mentioned. Anyway, I think we can go to the next talk. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, while the next talk is being uploaded, there have been studies which have shown like increased number of chances of COVID-19 infections with the refractive error spectacle frame which we use. And there have been multiple studies in ophthalmology point of view also. So Dr. Stuti, you could have done some comparative behavioral changes, like the centers who strictly follow COVID-19 positive protective protocols have less number of COVID-19 transmission cases. Something like this would have actually been more fruitful.